in business, in real estate, and starting a business, the longer you're in the game, the better chances you have of it being a success.
Riches are in the niches. When we try to do too much, we do a lot of things poorly.
If you have the funds and the money are there, is it better to buy beachfront or is it better to buy right across the street from the beach? And we always try to tell people to buy.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Bros podcast. I have today a old friend, but he is not old.
Not yet.
I'm actually a lot older than you are. But we knew each other growing up, kind of in church. We met there and did some ministry together and then parted ways. And then happenstance, both made career shifts. You actually made yours a little before, and now we're both in real estate.
Yep.
And you're doing a lot of successful things down on the coast. And I was like, I've got to have you on here because honestly, this podcast is just a selfish exploration of my curiosity.
Yeah. And it worked out good because that was literally the day that we were making our plans to come back up here for Christmas. And you texted me. I was like, hey, we're about to be in. So
yeah, I had that thought. I was like, there's a few people I'm just like, hey, when you're traveling, come by. Because I love the in-person, and it's so great to see you. Before this, we started recording, was just catching up on life and stuff. So, give me just kind of a brief overview of what the last, 5-6 years has looked like for you, what you're doing on the coast, and we'll kind of go from there, man. Yeah,
well, definitely. So thanks for having me on. So I've been watching y'all's stuff and everything, and it's been awesome. So I was happy when I got the text to catch up on things. So we, I guess 5-6 years ago, I was actually doing a landscape business with my dad.
Okay.
Both realized that we didn't want to be working in the 120 degree weather and then arguing over $5 with some old person that wasn't happy with weeds and stuff like that. We got to do a career change. Both went out and got our real estate license, and always had a dream kind of to eventually make our way down to the beach and to the coast and things like that. Had a couple different opportunities that didn't work out. And then when COVID happened, we were like, you know what? There's no better time. Let's just make the move. There were prices, the rent were way down, things like that. This is the perfect opportunity. So moved down to the coast. My dad and mom, and then also with my wife and our dog, we all moved down together, kind of took a leap of faith. And we were originally going to sell real estate up in Birmingham and down on the coast and kind of have that tie in. And as we know, the real estate world kind of took off 2020, 21, 22, and there was no way, you had to, if you weren't at the showing the first hour it was on the market, there's no way you were going to see it.
Well, I was saying it was like showing / have the inspector there.
Right, yeah, everything. Yeah, you better have the appraiser ready to go.
It was just insane.
Everything. So we're like, there's no way, we can't service people, how we really need to. So decided to after a couple months, to move fully down to the coast. About a year after that, got presented with the opportunity to open up a property management company. There was a older gentleman that had the name Flip Flop Vacations, but used to have a decent company. It had kind of run into the ground a little bit. He ended up passing away. He was getting sick, but we bought the name from him. Okay. Thought we were stepping into a relatively good business, thought we had 25 properties, thought we had some brand. Turns out the name had kind of gotten tarnished some. He had lost all his properties.
Wow.
And so literally we ended up paying almost nothing for the name itself.
Okay.
We came in, took everything to the ground. We had to redo the websites. The last website update was 2012.
Wow.
Was the last time the website had been updated.
So during the evaluation of the business, you kind of dug into the weeds and basically were like, there's not a lot of value here. We'll give you a little bit.
Right. So the first conversation, we're at a coffee shop and we're thinking he's wanting some bigger numbers, and we start looking at things. Ends up he's down to one property. That one property was his that he ended up foreclosing on, so we didn't even have that property. So we're like, there's nothing here. Kind of felt sorry, so we were like, hey, we'll buy the website with the name.
Right.
And
rebuild the website.
And just, and then, the website we bought, we couldn't even use. So it was crazy. So literally start from ground zero. We redid the logos, redid the color scheme. The colors are like this weird off blue greenish thing. They just weren't real beachy. So we kind of went with orange because we live in Orange Beach, and the sunsets that you see are just beautiful on the beach.
Yeah.
So that plays, and then the kind of the blue with the water. So kind of went for the Miami Dolphins kind of color. Rebuilt the brand, rebuilt everything, and literally started from scratch about 2 years ago. And we focus on short-term property management on the coast. So that's houses, condos, things like that. When you're coming down, taking a trip, places that you would want to stay in.
Yeah. So walk me through that. How you market. Do you do anything through Airbnb, or you only use your own portals to publicize your listings? Or how does that work when have a property manager, but also like, do you leverage other mediums to promote?
We literally do everything. So for us, we call ourselves a full service management company. So kind of have different ways. We have some people that self-manage, which I don't know how, if you live in Colorado or wherever you're from, you can self-manage one unit 15 hours away, unless you just have fantastic people.
With a lot of headaches.
Right, exactly. It's like, what I say. I mean, we get owners all the time where, they're like, hey, we had to call, we didn't have an extra key, so we had to call the locksmith at 2 a.m. because the renter got locked out. They paid $400 for an emergency call. It's like, we have a key right here. We would have done that for free. You end up saving more. But, some people that do that. Some people that are like a partial management, like a co-host, where you do all the communicating with the guest as the owner, but then we actually are the eyes on the property. Ours is a full service. So the owners literally turn it over to us, and we do everything. We do all the marketing, advertising, all the communicating with the guests before, during, and after their stay, maintenance requests, cleanings. Literally, we have some owners we talk to every 3 months. They just get their check each month, and that's it. So,
that's great.
But with that, so we have our own direct site, and then we also are integrated with Airbnb and Vrbo. And all of our calendars link. So as soon as, if a booking comes in on Airbnb, it'll block it on our site. It'll book it on Vrbo. It'll set the cleaner schedule up. It'll do all that. It's automated. All integrated, automated.
And I'm assuming like you obviously sometimes Airbnb is the best portal to get someone there, but like year 2, year 3, if it's a reoccurring vacation, it's like go directly to our site and there's discounts or there's better ways to do it. So
that's what we try, incredible. Which obviously Airbnb, VRBO, they all want you to stay inside their systems, but you can look. I mean, I do the same with hotels when you're traveling. You can look online at some of the sites to find a good hotel, then go direct, and you can save anywhere from 10 to 15% booking direct on our site. So we try to, once that booking is made on those sites, especially the first year or two that we have a property, that's where we're going to get most our traffic from. But we try to put our website, our logos, our phone numbers everywhere in their information in the room.
That's so smart.
And just tell them, hey, if you want to come back, hey, you want to save 15%, book with us next year. And we can actually go up a little in rates, but to them, they're actually saving money booking direct. And we have much more control of the situation.
The control. So, what's interesting is you're telling the story of, your kind of happenstance down to the coast and then just, into flip-flop and kind of the, like niching down into vacation rentals, because you could have done all rentals. You could have said, hey, we're not going to be full service. We're going to do piecemeal or whatever. But like, it's just kind of the interesting thing about that concept of riches are in the niches. And I think when we try to do too much, we do a lot of things poorly instead of a few things very well. And be known for doing those few things well. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom that you just quickly pivoted of like, hey, this isn't working. We're going to take the risk and be all in right here. And hey, flip-flop has been this, but we're going to go all in on short term.
Because even for us, you have long-term management companies that for people kind of more off the island. When we started out, we were taking every property we could. So even though we're Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Fort Morgan is still on the island. But we had a house that literally during the summertime, it'll take an hour and a half to get down. Right now, it'll take 20 minutes.
Oh, that's true.
Summertime, it'll take to get all the way down. Or if you're going, we had some that were off the island. And to get in that summer traffic, not only was it not worth it for us, but if there's a cleaning or maintenance issue, you just tied your maintenance person up for a 4-hour round trip for a 5-minute fix.
Wow.
So, now that's kind of this year. We've let some properties go, some that have sold, because we're just trying to really hone in on what we want. Again, and we tell people, it's like, there's nothing wrong with your property. There's companies that specialize on Fort Morgan or in that area. There's companies that specialize in that. But,
and there's reasons why.
Right. We can't we can't do our best and take full care of you when we're over here and it'll take us 3 hours to get to a guest issue.
Golly.
And it just doesn't make sense for us. Also,
I've never thought about that, just the travel, the actual space versus the time of year.
Right.
Creates these huge delays, like massive delays, and you have to seasonally think through, like, oh, should I, it's not off season, so I got to really think about this commute.
Right. And that's what, I mean, we literally, like,
I'm going to second guess that one.
Right. I mean, we literally have, because depending on the time of year, like, usually, like, we tell people, like, people that just moved down and stuff, we tell them, hey, summertime, if you're a local, like, you go to the grocery store like 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Like, that's it. Like you don't, like, we don't go to the beach during that time. We don't go out and eat at restaurants. Everybody cooks at home. Like, you really don't see each other during those months. Cause I mean, there's a restaurant called Big Mike's, Big Steakhouse. That's real famous.
Right.
At 3:00, it'll be an hour wait already to go eat and things like that.
It's not worth it.
So it's not, so like literally, like, we have to, kind of, depending on the time of year, change around our schedule.
Is I'm calling you next time, and I'm going to say, what's the locals itinerary, and then I'll know when to go to the grocery store.
That's right. So that's the way. I mean, and then we tell people, like, our owners that own the units and things like that. Number one, you're going to make your most money during the busiest 3-4 summer months. Like, it's probably not best to come down there anyway.
Right.
We had one owner that they stayed down on July 4th. They took like 2 weeks. It's like, literally, that's your 2 most profitable weeks of the year. Like, you can do it if you want, but whatever. But we tell people, like, springtime and then fall time, like October is just perfect. Because a lot of restaurants were running like sunset specials for food, and the beach isn't crowded. The water's still warm, and it's like 80 out, not 150 outside. So we tell, that's kind of like, that's our time when we get out and actually get to enjoy it. So
that's great. I was going to ask you, so if you want to go visit the beach on and off season, maybe get a few deals, have less waste at restaurants, what are those dates? October?
I say October. Even November is nice. It's even less crowded. But October, there's a couple big festivals like Shrimp Fest and things like that are down there. So they're good times to come down. And then like April. So April, 1st of May, because normally that's when the kids are about to be out of school. So they're not taking trips. They're not out. The weather's great, the water's great, and restaurants aren't overly packed and things like that. So we always say springtime and then fall time, like October, is just come that's on our down. Time to enjoy it. So we'll go 2-3 months without even seeing the beach, and then we'll go out every day if we want to during October.
Right.
So
talking through favorite, obviously you're particular to Orange Beach. What are some of the other good ones that you can promote and say, hey, these are better than the others?
Like, as far as areas or
just
restaurants?
Areas or just restaurants or favorite spots that you like to hit up? Because I think people like to know,
Well, one thing we always talk about that's so nice is, no matter where you go, like, we love Birmingham and restaurants in Birmingham. And every time we come up, we literally base around what restaurants we're going to. We got good restaurants down there, but it's the ambiance. Like, we always joke when we're up here, you're hearing kind of more hipster music and stuff like that. When you're down there, it's always Jimmy Buffett, and it's, you're beachy music. You're always surrounded by some type of water on the bay or by the beach.
Right.
There's sand, there's palm trees. So there's lots of different areas that have, great seafood and things like that. There's a place called Big Fish we like to go to, and everybody knows Cobalt, which it's in Orange Beach, kind of underneath the Perdido Pass Bridge.
Okay.
And you go there at nighttime, even summertime, it's worth the wait, because they're back decked, the sun's setting, all the boats are coming in from fishing, and it's just beautiful out there. So we love that, and anywhere in Orange Beach, anywhere in Gulf Shores, we love. It's nice, and the cities do a good job of making, like, even spring break time, they do a good job of not making it just how you see like Panama City and stuff. That's just a college party town.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not there's anything wrong.
We accept all kinds of beachgoers here on the podcast, but it gets crazy.
So for locals and for people with families and things like that, they just do a good job of, hey, we want more family-oriented styles and things like that coming down. But there's plenty of stuff that the Florida BAM and the Hangout puts on, big festivals that bring in the college crowds and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And but they do a good job of keeping it just fun and family friendly and things like that. So we love that aspect of living there, and things like that. So
okay, so I want to circle back to a little bit of your business experience, and we'll breach the concept of you got to be a realtor in Birmingham for a while, and now obviously on the coast. Talk to me about the differences of doing real estate in very different cultures, very different locations. What is the same and what is drastically different?
So on the agent side of things, of course, when we left Birmingham, I think the average price has gone up now, but the average sales price was like $250,000 or so.
Yeah.
I think it's gone up a little bit now in Birmingham. If you're working the condo market, I mean, the average condo is like $750,000. So you're immediately looking at whatever that is, almost triple the amount on your commission, on everything, because the prices are so much more. So that's one of the big differences. And then marketing is getting clients, because especially if you're working the investment side, the condo side, obviously we have Foley and we have some other areas where people are actually living, and that's a little more that's kind of like it is where people are reselling, buying, things like that. But so many of the buyers are out of state. So down here or up here in Birmingham, you're doing marketing to friends and family, and you're advertising a little more local. You can do a billboard and be in a magazine and do a little more local stuff, because that's who you're kind of attracting. When you're on the coast, almost all your clients don't even live in Alabama.
The whole world is your client.
So you're not. So some of that local marketing per se doesn't matter as much. It's your social media presence. What are you doing in Facebook groups and things like that, because that's where a lot of your clientele is coming from. Now, once you actually get into a market or find a friend group of investors, then it's great, because then you can work those investors and help get more. But, that was the biggest challenge when we tried to first kind of take mailers and things like that we were doing in Birmingham, and it just doesn't really work. Doesn't really work because your buyer pool is so much smaller of locals.
Is the agent pool a lot smaller in like niche, or is it still a lot of competition?
It's big. So when we moved down, we were told, you're one of 3 people that live down here. You're either retired, you're a business owner, or you're a real estate agent. And a lot of people are all 3. So that's literally like the 3 careers down there. And you have a lot of retired / real estate agents. A lot
of competition.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I'm in a leadership group out of the chamber, and there's 20 of us total, and like 8 of us all have our license. So it's just crazy. So a lot of people, but a lot that only do a couple sales a year.
It's just through a connection. And I'll line it up.
And so many people like us aren't from the area, so we don't have a friends and family list when you get your license to go, try to reach out to. Even on the investing side, when we were up here, you knew other investors to network with. You knew maybe your dad's boss that had some money that you could reach out to and try to get. Well, when you're new to an area, we didn't have any of that. Which can be not as good. It's a little harder to start. But then on the flip side, everybody's kind of facing that scenario. Everybody's looking for people that don't live in the area. So I'd say, that's one of the biggest differences with that.
Is movement of real estate as pretty much similar, or is it harder through title companies, or they get backlogged, or is it pretty quick?
It's about the same. It's pretty quick once you get one under contract. Now, a couple years ago, when the pandemic and all that, then to get a appraisal, you were waiting 4 weeks plus. Lenders were paying like triple the amount just to try to get it through and get up and things like that. But now, it's quick. Right now, it's been so slow, just things aren't moving. I think time on market, or the average days on market and all that has gone up so much from a couple years ago. It's like you get one under contract and the inspector's like, hey, I can be out in the morning first thing. It's just quick. Everybody title, they're just waiting on deals, and things are, getting done quicker.
Talk to me about lending, because, with so many out-of-state people, and I know that in Birmingham we work with investors, and oftentimes, some of the local banks prefer to work with local investors. It's really hard for an out-of-state investor to partner with a local bank.
Yeah.
How does that work there? Are a lot of the investors, or even people who are buying vacation homes and, supplementing the purchase with some renting, are they using a lot of external banks, or is there a lot of local banks who understand the gamut of what's happening and they're willing to fund their own product in their backyard, or how does that work?
I mean, as a rule, like if you have a buyer, listing agents almost require you to have a local lender that's at least one of the options that it had at least run something, because the condo market, especially right now, is just, you never know what you're going to get. There's units right now that once January hits are going to get pulled off the market for about 3 months, doing renovations still from the hurricane that hit in 2020. So everywhere, like insurance costs has about tripled everywhere. We were in one complex that 2019, the monthly HOA was $450 a month. Now they're looking at $1,300 a month. And all that is just insurance assessment. I mean, it's their whole profit is gone, just paying insurance that has gone up. And then they're having to do work because of the hurricane next year, and they're going to get hit with a $13,000 assessment on top of that, on top of their $1,300 monthly. So there's so many condo docs, and now, the government a couple years ago passed what they call condo tells. And essentially a lot of the condos like Caribe and Turquoise and some of the nicer ones that have front desk, the government has viewed those as a condo tell, which essentially means...
When you say condo tel, like hotel.
It's like a condo hotel. Right, it's like a condo.
Gotcha,
so even though it's not a hotel, it's individually owned by, it's individually owned. Each unit is individually owned. But they have a front desk and all that. So the government says, oh, this isn't like a typical investment you're buying into. They just classify it different. So because of that, a lot of those are a minimum 25% down and all kind of different rules. So if you're not a local lender, you don't know how to underwrite it. Certain aren't approved, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. You have to run it certain lending styles. So because of that, you have to have a local lender. And they're literally we have lenders that they have whole teams that all they do are work on condo documents to get it approved.
Wow.
And it's changed. I mean, every HOA meeting, every 6 months, they're rewriting rules and all that. And those lenders have to look at, what is going to be government approved. Government doesn't like certain funds. Like if a condo's collecting too much for a parking pass, this is a business. They view it more of as business, and it'll kick it to a condo tel model, and nobody can get approved.
Oh, wow.
So it's a mess with a lot of that, and just knowing all the assessments and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say with that,
That or cash.
Or cash, yeah. If you're cash, you're good to go. Of course now, and then there's some that you don't even want to buy cash because there's liens. Like everybody's, all the insurance companies, HOAs are suing each other because they didn't get enough money. And it's kind of a mess right now on the lending side.
Is it just from the hurricanes, or was it kind of like... I don't want to use the cliche or the pun, perfect storm, but stuff was not set up properly on the front end, and then that event happened and basically created the perfect blow up of
it was a
bad situation.
Right. I mean, so many hotels are hitting around that 25, 30 year mark. So that's about when they're supposed to have all this upgrade work done. Just like that hotel or condo that collapsed in Florida. It was because the salt water rotted the rebar and all that. Well, now these condos are trying to redo they're trying to redo them, and they'll get to it, and the concrete's chipping and all the rebar's messed up, kind of like what happened there. So they're having to now do these 30-year upgrades. So it was a mix of the hurricane helped expose the 30-year upgrades that were needed, probably didn't have the funding set up the way they should have. And then a lot of the coasts on insurance-wise is all looked at the same.
Right.
So, there's been so many hurricanes the past 4 years, even the categories 5s that hit Fort Myers, and then there was one in Louisiana, and there was one that hit in Houston. All the Gulf Coast is viewed the same. Even so, like, you can't close on loans or you can't get insurance if there's a named hurricane in the Gulf anywhere. They'll just put a halt on all closings until they see where that hurricane's going to go.
Right, because you could close on it, and 5 days later,
and the hurricane hits.
And then the insurance gets hammered.
So during hurricane season, which normally is the worst, August, September.
You're like, I was going to have a good November, but the hurricane's coming.
Hurricane went. So, yeah. So it's just all kind of things that we never even thought about up in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Now we have to deal with and all that. So I would say it's a mix of all that. A lot of it is the insurance that has just gone up so high.
Right.
Has been really the perfect storm of now we have to do repairs to get the condo back in order.
Right.
But insurance also went up because they had to pay out between like 15 named hurricanes that hit on the whole Gulf Coast.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say perfect storm's a good
good analogy there.
Good analogy of it all.
I had heard about that collapse, which is so sad. But someone was talking about investing in a couple single-family homes that were 2-story or 3-story. I think there's a rule, and part of the reason was that everything above a certain story is going to start to be the insurance and the tax and all these things because the risk goes up a lot higher past a certain stories. You probably know if it's 3 or 2, but. It's just they were like, this is the time to get in on these 2-story buildings because they're not going to make much of them.
Yeah, and that's what we tell people. There's pros and cons to both. Normally, we manage smaller complexes, and they normally don't have as many amenities, so there's a little less moving parts. The HOA is lower. But if there is something that happens, there's a lot less owners to split the cost. So normally they're bigger. Yeah. If you have a bigger condo, you normally are going to have more amenities and you have more things that could go wrong, but you have a lot more owners that can kind of help split the cost and things like that. So that's what there's pros and cons to both.
So the beginning of this episode, I was like, I'm buying a vacation rental, and now I'm like, I'm out. And I think it comes back to like if I ever did, which I do think, that is a potential thing for us down the road. I'd like to diversify. I'm coming to you because it's like, tell me where to buy and what not to buy. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who don't have as much knowledge as you, and then they potentially make a wrong move versus I feel like you could tell them, like, I would buy here and not here. This condo's pretty, the HOA is pretty good. I actually know a lot of the owners. We own, we manage half of these, but these other ones we don't. Right. And so that's huge.
That's what even, I saw a thing float.
What's going on?
But yeah, even like of course, some of it depends on budget and things like that that people have to look at. But we partner with a lot of agents down there. We have a big referral program and say, hey, if you're going out with clients and showing them, we'll help you out and we'll give you projections on what different condos are going to do. And we end up on 3-way calls with the agent and the client and us, and they do the sales side. We work with them on the management side. But we look at, hey, if you have the funds and the money are there, is it better to buy beachfront or is it better to buy right across the street from the beach? And we always try to tell people to buy beachfront just because of if it's summertime, it's going to rent no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
But when it's fall time and when we call it snowbird season, so when all the people from up north come down in December, January, February, they're going to look at beachfront condos because they want to wake up, open up the blinds, and see the beach. Yeah. You're going to get the most out of your money. You're going to get the most rentals for that. And then even more so if it's got a indoor pool or a heated pool that they can use in the off season. So there's all kind of things when we're working with investors or even agents, working with agents to help out investors that we're like, hey, if the budget is there, instead of buying two across the street, and even summertime, you have so many people with kids and older parents. Yeah. They're not wanting to run across a busy road to get to the beach.
I've done it before, and it was a pain, man.
Right. So we work with them and say, hey, instead of buying 2 condos here, how about we just put all that into 1 condo here? Yeah. It's a lot less headache. You don't have to deal with separate HOAs and all that. And we're beachfront. You're going to maximize your rental in this area. So
that's awesome. And ultimately that makes a happier customer.
Right.
As a manager, you want that. It's like they're not ringing your phone like, why did you not rent my house? And you're like, well, because I told you to buy beachfront. I think I experienced that sometimes. It's like, owners, come to us for investment advice. They're like, hey, what price point? And we have this thing called Birmingham markets, or the Birmingham sweet spot.
Yeah.
And we really suggest you buy, anywhere from 150 to 250 is where we like rentals. You can go below, you can be successful, but especially for a first-time investor or investor who only has a few, that's where you're going to get the best tenant pool, a good return, quality product. And then they're like, yeah, but I could buy three $50,000 houses. And you're like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
And they end up doing it, and they come back to us a year later and be like, this is so hard. Like, why? And we're like, well, you didn't listen to us.
Unless you are strictly, you just know that you're going into an area and you're playing the appreciation game.
Right.
And you think those three, you don't really care about the rental. But for us, it's all relative. They're all going to appreciate or not depreciate about the same rate. You're not just going to buy one specific complex and all of a sudden it triple and nowhere else triple.
Right.
So it's not really that. It really is, it's playing the right area. Plus, the headache of it all. It's like you'd rather just deal with one, and if you don't like it or your financial situation changes, you're just selling that one. You're not having to sell multiple or sell and combine into one and things like that. But I like that, the sweet spot. That's a good one.
You recently opened up a shuttle company.
Yep.
So you're like this guru of business now. You and your wife are just killing it. But tell me a little bit about the shuttle company.
We saw a need. So at first, like Uber and Lyft and things weren't even allowed in the cities of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. There was like some legal issues and things like that. So there's just now they are, but there's just not a ton. There's only a couple shuttle companies really down there. And we saw, problems with, people that would come down would either fly in or they'd get a lot of families together and they'd want to go eat. And there's not a lot of parking at restaurants. People are having to wait. And then airports right now, the closest airport is either Mobile or Pensacola, and they're both about an hour away.
Okay.
So there's just not a good way to get people in. You couldn't find an Uber to leave Gulf Shores to take you to Pensacola. And I guess with Uber, like they have certain state lines, even if you want to go to the Floribama, that's technically in Florida. So people would get stuck in Florida if they couldn't get an Alabama Uber to pick them up. And we just saw a lot of different things that just weren't working right.
Yeah.
Plus, as we picked up a couple houses that slept 10 to 15 people. And so with that, we're like, hey, we have people here. They're all wanting to go out and,
That's three or four cars,
right. They're wanting to go out. You do get people that are having a good time on bachelor trips, bachelorette trips.
Yeah, what does that mean?
And they like they like to enjoy.
They don't need to be driving.
They don't need to be driving. So we're like, hey, there's a big need for that. So we like, hey, we're already bringing the people in. Let's do some shuttling. We do some cross market. So really, we just found a need and filled it through our connections with the chamber, where I was friends with people that run a couple hotels and things like that. So for the events, we partnered with them on the big events. So the hotels actually pay us to pick all their their people the people staying at the condo, pick them up and take them to the events, shuttle them back after the event. So now it's like a bonus. They're literally getting people that are coming and, staying at their hotel just because they get a free shuttle service to the event and back and things like that. And then when it comes to airports and people that rent boats for the day, there's only about 3 boat launches where all these companies launch boats out of, and there's no parking there. So people are having to Uber and things like that just to go get on a boat. So it's like, well, we can you can book with us. We'll pick you up from the airport. We'll take you to your boat for the day. We'll take you out to dinner at night. The hotels that do conferences, we'll go pick up the conferences and go take them out at night and things like that. So it was kind of fulfilling a need, but it also all kind of ties in with what we're already doing.
Man, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So did you buy a fleet? Are you renting? Are you partnering with someone who already owned a fleet?
We bought our first one, our first shuttle the day that we started up. It's a 15-passenger van. It's pretty much like an old church van.
Okay.
We put lights inside. We put a system Bluetooth system in it. We do not have a pole or anything like that. Like there's some sketchy ones that do.
He's like, I just want to clarify what type of shuttle we are.
Yeah, so it's like some out of Pensacola, they're a little sketchy.
My mind didn't even go there, but I'm glad you clarified.
We try to stick with the family-friendly feel of the island. We can give you some recommendations if you want to go all out. But we call it a party bus, but it's more of like it's a fun bus. So we bought the first one, then we ended up buying a second one because the hotels that we were partnering with, they needed more people to go on. So we do different tours, and down there they're real famous for the bushwhackers. So we start a bushwhacker tour that we go around, and we'll take people to different places, and just trying to create a fun, safe environment for people to have fun. And really, we got the idea from like Nashville. You go to Nashville, and all the bachelorette parties, they have all those different tours that will go take and see the sights, and there's really nothing like that down there.
That's awesome.
So we would get people that, hey, I don't know any restaurant to go to. I don't know, where are the good views at? They just go to the places that you see the ad on TV that's just packed with, frozen food and things like that. So we get kind of that more local experience of, hey, here's the places we'd like to go to.
Check this out,
and all that. So the businesses
here's
love
the
it.
grocery store.
Right, the restaurants love it and all that. So, so that's kind of how all that started up. So
all right, so how do I buy shares? I'm in.
That's brilliant.
What we didn't know is the insurance is just so each vehicle has to have just crazy liability insurance and all that. So and then we also have a smaller van, like a 6-passenger van that does the airport shuttles and all that. So it's good, but I think the insurance was a little more than we thought. It's just crazy to keep all that, and then all the different licenses you have to have. Anything under 15 passengers or a certain weight, you don't have to have a CDL license, which is great. So all of ours are under that. So we get to stay in that and things like that. And then those buses always have problems. The air will go out one day and things like that.
Which doesn't make it a party bus anymore.
No.
It quickly turns into a different type of
bus. A sauna bus.
It's a sauna real quick. So
and then you can upcharge for the sauna.
Right. Like we're helping you lose weight as we're doing this tour. So
you ate a few crabfish, some crabs. You need to lose the weight.
That's
so we're
right.
good.
That's
we're
right.
good. Sweat it off.
So it's fun. It's enjoyable. But that's one that with Flip Flop, we knew the real estate game. We didn't know some of the specifics of property management and how all that worked, but we knew some of the game. We had no clue about anything, so we just kind of jumped in, and that's been probably one of the biggest learning experiences. But it's been fun and cool to see kind of the rise of that, literally out of nothing. So
and I think about it too, like in one way. I watched this or listened to this podcast one time of this guy who actually built a property management company, which property management, you could probably speak to, long-term property management is a good business, but it is hard to make money. Like you really have to, your efficiencies have to be streamlined. You have to have like really stuff dialed in.
And numbers wise, usually the commission's a good bit lower what they're making, so you have to have a lot of volume.
Yeah, exactly.
Which creates a whole nother line of problems.
And so he basically built his own property management company at a zero cost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for profit. And the reason why he did that was because he said, I want to hire the people that I want to hire to do it the way I want it to be done. And I'm okay with it breaking even.
Yeah.
And in a way, and I'm sure you will make profit with this shuttle business. Sounds like a fantastic idea, and you'll build it. Yeah. But to a degree, I would think it is a supplementary to your existing business that even if it is a break even for the first couple of years, A, it's a learning experience, and B, I would say that it complements what you provide your customers that no one else can.
Yeah.
That is kind of a great leverage that even if it's break even, it's this supplemental thing that is like probably you probably couldn't like make an actual equation of like it's profited us this much more, but the convenience is like, okay, but Flip Flop had that shuttle.
Right.
That made it so much easier for our bachelorette party. We're doing it again for Sandra's.
Yeah. I mean, it has
Sandra, if you're listening.
There you go. We got everything for you. So. But yeah, we really, I mean, like when we go do pitches to pick up the bigger beach houses and things, it's like, hey, like we can take care of your guests. Like, this is how, like, we're full service, which people like.
Yeah.
And then it does help us, there's people we've met through the shuttle business that we tell them, hey, we also do property management, that they have property down here, it has kind of tied in together. And in our guest welcome book, we have the shuttle in there saying, hey, if you ever need a ride, if you get stuck out somewhere, just
holler.
Yeah. We'll call this number and we'll help take care of you. We'll give you a little discount since you're staying with us. So,
man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's you're the who, not how. You are the solution for people's problems.
Right.
And I think when you approach it from that way, which I feel like you are, you're there solving someone's problems. The money will come, but really I know you have a great heart and a great motivation to help people.
Right.
And then, you built a business out of, solving people's problems, which is incredible. I want to circle back. You've obviously learned a lot of lessons through the experience of moving, starting Flip Flop, starting the Shuttle Company. For someone who hasn't started a business, or interested in that, what are some of the early lessons or the lessons that you could share that would maybe, like, these are things to avoid, or these are principles, or due diligence, for example, like really do your due diligence. Obviously you did your due diligence on Flip Flop. If you just signed a check, you would have been up a river.
Good, yeah.
So talk me through some of those top 2 or 3 lessons you've learned.
I mean, I think one thing that I tell people is just to go for it.
So don't do due diligence.
No, do the due diligence.
Just go,
but also go for it. So no, you have so many people that they'll take 5 years to do due diligence, and it's you could have done 1 year or 2 years of due diligence and got some funds
30
right,
days,
and still, the learning of it, the hands-on. It's even like in school and stuff. I'd learn way more hands-on than just learning in a textbook. Like, do the due diligence as far as, don't put yourself and your family like in a huge financial risk or whatever. But, even if it's for people wondering if they should get their real estate license because they have a job, well, keep your job for now, but get your license, or, buy your first property, whatever that business is, start it. But, you can keep what you're doing and still, start to at least go for it and just see if that's something you want, because learning, the hands-on learning and the trial and error are going to go a whole lot further than, taking 5 years to make a decision. And then you'll be mad that you didn't start earlier and things like that. So I'd say just taking the leap and going for it. And then the second, which is kind of the reverse of that, is making sure, especially if you have a family and things like that, making sure you're not literally, hey, if I do this decision, is it all for my own selfish gain? And if this is a failure, are we going to end up on the street next year? You want to be careful. So, you hear some people with the burn the ship model, go all in, things like that, which I definitely love. For us, moving in the first place was kind of a burn the ship model of, hey, we're going for it, we're done. But there was always some backups, like, always know, like, I tell even new agents, it's going to take, statistically, I think it's like 90% don't even make it past year 3. So it's like statistically, a lot of people, and it's because the income isn't coming in. So don't be afraid to, burn the ship and go for it, like I said, but don't be afraid to
know how to rebuild the ship.
Yeah. Keep the pieces with you. No, but have somewhat of a backup plan. Like, hey, I do real estate during the day, but to make ends meet, I'll go drive Uber at nighttime.
Yeah.
Or don't just feel like, hey, all in means no matter what, I have to go all in. And I think that's important I think that's one reason why agents don't make it, is they literally put every last dime into it, and if it doesn't take off year 1, which normally it takes a couple years with any business, it takes a couple years to build. Don't be afraid to have some type of a way to make some money. I mean, there's things I sold a couple years, probably 6 years ago, second year in the business, I sold Medicare insurance during the Medicare season, and that we made enough money in that 3 months that really helped us get 6 months down the road. Where, it helped buy some time in real estate until things did take off. So, not be afraid of doing that. I think I saw a meme where it was like, hey, my real estate agent just brought my ship groceries to me in his $100,000 Mercedes, so it must be rough right now. So yeah, it's probably shouldn't have got that. If you're doing that, but don't be afraid to have extended. I think in business and real estate and starting a business, the longer you're in the game, the better chances you have of it being a success. Yeah. So anything you can do to sustain, just like with the shuttle, if it was our everything, you're going to break even for a couple years to get going. The biggest thing is that you just keep going and you keep, year 3, 4, 5. I mean, even some of the biggest businesses, Amazon, things like that, it took 10 years, 20 years before some of them really got known.
Took off.
So, not just giving up and, giving up early and things like that. If you got to do something else to help keep your family afloat and things like that, then don't be afraid to do that just to prolong it as much as you can. So
I love that, and I agree. And I think with investing, I think a lot about that is like, what is going to allow me to stay in the game the longest? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's being a little more conservative. Sometimes it is taking action, being aggressive. But when you run your numbers, I mean, I actually sat down with a banker one time, and we were negotiating a little bit of terms and rates and stuff. And I said, hey, look. I was like, I'm asking for this because you want to give me liquidity. Yep. And you don't think of that, but liquidity protects your investment, your portion of it. Because when I'm liquid, I can fix the leaky pipes. Right. I can stay in the game longer when I'm liquid. Yep. If you take all of my money as a down payment, I don't have the liquidity to fix the pipes. And he was like, oh, I've never thought of it that way. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, well, and I get it. You can't trust, but I said with me, I don't go out and buy boats. I don't go out and buy, I buy real estate. That's what I do with my liquid money. And it was just a perspective shift for him. And I think at the end of the day, our liquidity, our safety margins, all those things need to sustain us through the tough times. Right. Because they're going to happen. Yep. We didn't know COVID was going to happen. Right. And the craziness that all brought financially.
For us on the coast, during COVID 2020, September of 2020 is when the hurricane hit. And it was like 2 miles short of a Category 3. Yeah. So, there's still, like I said, there's still people that don't even have their house back from that. It's wild. And then about 3 months after that, we had a record hailstorm. It was like softball-sized hail. So all the architecture roofs that made it through the hurricane and all the metal roofs all got taken out with the hailstorm. So it was like those three things. And, there was people that went under. There was the BP oil spill that happened, 12 years ago. And there was people that moved away, still never moved back because of that. So having that, and then on the investing side, I'm sure you deal with people too. We deal, and it's like, well, I want to quit my job and do that. It's like, yeah, but with that job, that gives you the security that is going to help secure you some money to go buy, properties. Nobody's going to lend to you if you're just on your couch and doing whatever. So having that, don't be afraid to have that and.
The side hustle and the extra hustles is so good, man. I love it. Okay, so talk me through a little bit about just the 101 of I'm inspired to invest on the coast. I want to get a vacation rental. Where do I start?
So I would say, first thing, I always say making sure you have your team in place. So who's your agent going to be? Who's your lender going to be? Who's your management company going to be if you're going to do that? Making sure that's all set. Even your financial, if you have a financial planner or advisor, making sure your team is there so you can make the best decision possible. Like I said, you have some people like us where if we can pay the agent role plus the management role, we can look at this from a real estate perspective. Right. We can also look at this from a management perspective. So with that,
it's like 1-2 punch.
Right. We got it all. So with that, and with the mortgage side, we're going to know, where your money's at as well. Right. So we're going to know where your budget's at, things like that. So I'd say first, making sure, you have your team together and then seeing where your budget's at. It would be the first couple things. So you'd come to us and, if it's, hey, we got a budget of $750,000. Right. I'd say, well, immediately with that, I know we can look for a 2, maybe even a 3-bedroom, Gulf front, beach condo. Okay. That's right on the beach, things like that. So because of knowing where your budgets and things like that are. So
I'm at 1.5. Can I buy a house on the beachfront? I'm not saying I literally am. I'm just asking what are the prices for like a nice beachfront house?
I would say that's getting close to it. Probably like 1.2 to 1.5 you can buy. There's like some smaller 3-bedroom ones. I mean, and then there's houses that go for 10, 15 million that are beachfront. But some of those literally they will make $250,000 a year in rentals. So you just kind of got to look at, where you're at. And then for some people, I have $300,000 versus $600,000, but you may make more with that $300,000 just depending on, again, what the expenses are with the condo and things like that. But if somebody came to us with 1.5 and, we'd first say, okay, do you want a condo? Because you could buy a 3-bedroom at Turquoise for that, or you could buy a 2 or 3-bedroom house for that. And we would just look at pros and cons. Houses, you're going to, HOA wise versus house is actually about the same because you may pay $1,000 a month in HOA dues.
Okay.
But that's covering most of your insurance. They're doing the pool. They're doing the landscaping for you. They have security. They got pest control. They got internet, TV. All that's included for that price. If you're buying a house, you're on your own for all that. You're getting your own pool person, your own landscaper. You're getting your own insurance for a house is just crazy. I mean, you may pay $10,000 a year just in insurance for a beachfront house. So, first, we compare the budgets. Looking at that, now let's look what's your monthly and yearly expense going to be.
Right.
And then we look at the rents. Okay, now what's your return going to be for both?
Wow.
And just kind of that's how we dissect it. I like playing the numbers so we get a full, especially when a client comes to us and they're wanting the sale and the rental side and us to do it, it's like extra pressure because, if you buy this and then we manage it and like, well, hey, it didn't make good money. I don't know if you should have bought here, but well, you told me to buy here. So it's
you ran the numbers.
Right. So that, which is actually good because it's caused at least me to be like, I feel like I'm super low pressure. Like I'll run into agents and they're like, I'm trying to make them buy it. I'm telling them it's good, it's good, it's good. I'm like, okay, but if something happens, like you talk them into it. I'm kind of more like, hey, like here's the stuff.
You make the call.
Take your time. I'm not gonna. Now I'll put some pressure on, but I'm not gonna blow your phone up every hour. And say, are you ready? And you just pressure buy something because then you're gonna be mad at me on both sides that you bought it and also that we can't rent it for what we told you we could. But so that's why we like putting all the numbers out and saying, hey, here's what we think. Rentals were actually down a little bit this year versus the past couple of years. So we say, hey, if it's the same, you may not like it, but I'd rather not get a real estate deal and I'd rather not get a client than get one and they're not be happy and then they're going to go tell their friends and just hard sleeping at night when you're like, man, they need $4,000 this month and they're not going to make it and this isn't good. That side of it, I'm like, I'd rather be straight up, run the numbers and things like that. So when somebody comes to us, it's again, comparing what you could buy for that, what's your monthly, yearly cost going to be, and then what's the income looking like, and then just saying, with this, you're looking at whatever your profit is after everything, $40,000 or $50,000, and this may be still $50,000, but this has a little bit more unknown and this, and then just let them make their decision on it. So,
man, that's so good. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even breach the whole condo versus home. I mean, that was a really good breakdown of, because I lend myself, we've had a few issues with the HOAs and I'm sure they're run very differently, but unorganized ones here in Birmingham they are a pain. And I'm like,
the same.
It makes you like not want to work with them. Right. But I mean,
well, and those assessments get passed and it's like, hey, by the way, you owe $50,000.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like you're not you're paying it. So
it's
you
happening.
have no control. If you have a leaky roof and you own a house, well, you could kind of temporarily patch it. You could get by for the next year. HOA, they're telling you what you're doing. And then a lot of HOAs, a lot of them are 80-90% are investment condos and things. But there's 5 to 10% people that either live there or it's their second home. And usually those are the people on the board. So they're the ones that they're going to pass rules that kind of tend to favor the people that live there.
Golly,
and
that's so
a lot of
interesting.
and because they're there for the meetings,
they care.
The owners, that live out of state and things like that, they don't really get much input. And it's like, oh, by the way, we just doubled the parking pass, and you also have to pay $10 a night every night you rent your property, and and so HOAs can definitely
and they're just torqued from the party that was next door to them last night, and they're like, well, I'm going to stick it to them.
They're like, oh well, we're going to double this. This doesn't happen. So HOA, but same thing. They're just it's either people that are way too involved, more than they probably should be, or people that aren't involved at all, and just finances are a mess. And and it's usually the management companies and the mortgage lenders that are having to go tell the HOAs how they should write stuff so that things can, actually sell and things like that. So same thing, there's some good sides where if there is a hurricane, these big companies, the HOA, a condo, they're going to make way more money than a house. So you're going to get more priority and things like that. So there are some positives, but if you're on your own, if you have a house or
and group pricing on internet, the leverage to price on internet or pool people or all those different things. So there's benefit in both, but there's also negatives with every situation. And so it's good to know what you're walking into.
And that's why I like laying that out for people. It's like, here you go, and then when we're talking with owners, like, hey, we have 5 in this complex. That's great because there's more and more softball and baseball and soccer tournaments and the NCAA volleyball tournaments down in Gulf Shores. So when all these teams come in, they're looking in the tourism boards asking them, hey, we need like 6 in this complex. Well, they have all our info and they can say, hey, we got a group of 6 right here.
Boom.
And it's a huge positive to get that repeat business where, a house, you're kind of on your own. And it's a whole different type of advertising that you're going for.
It's good to know, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this, taking the time to hang out, man. I'm super proud of you. It's great to see how you've developed and how you're just growing down there and thriving and networking great and just building businesses and just solving people's problems. So, man, I'm just glad I caught you.
I know.
You're a busy man.
So, no, it was great timing. Thanks for having me on. So
yeah, man. We'll catch you soon. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.